Hi, friends. Welcome back to another edition of Inside Major League Pickleball. We are so happy to have you with us this week. It is time for MLP San Clemente. I cannot believe it is already coming up this weekend. It's going to be such a fun event. So many things to fill you in on about the venue, about some of the upcoming players. We'll get to that in just a moment. And we have an absolute legend of a guest with us this week. Former professional tennis player, former world number 4, New York Times best-selling author. We will intro him in just a moment. He's one of the OG owners. He has so much insight. He's one of the nicest humans alive and has so many good things to say about betting, about MLP and its inception, why he got involved, how he got involved, and some funny ownership stories as well. As always, Michelle and Tyson here with you. I am fresh off of nearly 30 hours of pickleball broadcasting this weekend from PPA San Clemente, same venue that Major League Pickleball will be at. Tyson, fresh off his most recent 4-5 victory, bullying the elderly in Hawaii again. Congratulations, Tyson. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm
Hi.
great.
Welcome back to the stateside.
Thank you. Yeah, I came back and I've been focusing my efforts on the teenagers now. So I've been playing singles with
Okay.
with these teenagers that are always at the pickleball courts, and I have been losing, and it's felt horrible. But I think it's good for me. So yeah, so that's what I've been
Love
up
that.
to, and I have been catching some of the feed all weekend, trying to
You
figure
watched
out.
every hour?
I watched every hour.
Thanks, Tyson.
I always have it in on TV on the weekends. I have it on background. My kids are like, "Dad, pickleball again." I was like, "You spent all week watching whatever you wanted to watch. The pickleball is my time to turn it on. I'm still here. I'm still present, but I'm also side eyeing the TV from time to time." And I have to say, I think my highlight of the week uh, was when Dave Fleming actually used the line that I gave him about
Yes.
right at the start of one of the matches, saying only one of these guys can be pickled now at 1-0. And I was so proud. And Dave
Did
even
he say
texted
that?
me.
How do I not remember this?
Yeah, Dave even texted me and said, "Hey, I just used your line." So I was very excited about that. And for our
That's so
listeners,
good.
it's always, it's just like the perfect amount of trash talk. If you go up 1-0 right at the start of the game, say only one of us can be pickled now.
It is. Speaking of trash talk, you want to know who was lighting up the courts with trash
Yes,
talk this weekend?
yes,
You would have loved it. It got so chippy, Tyson. Matt Wright and
uh
Riley
huh.
Newman and Ben Johns and Colin Johns.
Ooh,
Ben didn't react as he never does. And I
okay,
give him a lot of credit being the top player in the world and you don't get much out of him. But Matt went hard in the paint on Colin Johns. It
really?
was, oh, yeah. And our mics could pick up on what was said. I'm not sure I want to repeat it to be controversial, but it was rowdy. And then, of course, the Johns brothers came back and pickled them. Speaking of which, I think it was the fourth game, it was in the gold medal match, men's doubles. And it was close. Riley and Matt took a 2-1 game lead. Then
I saw
Ben and
that.
Colin came back and pickled them in game 4. And like they just casually like showed back up and were like, "Yeah, sorry, no, you're not going to beat us today." And that's I feel like got to be the most maddening part. Anyways, leading up to that point, Matt Wright was going. No, sorry, it was Riley Newman at Colin Johns. I mean, Matt Wright's always Matt Wright, but
Yeah.
Riley went hard on Colin Johns. I got to know. I wish I could be a fly in the wall for their engagements after this point because I think it got really personal.
Well, you play with Riley in Dallas from time to time.
Yep, he played with me once. I'm still working on multiple appearances, but yeah, no,
On
he's great. I new Dallas resident, and Lindsay announced her relocation to
moving.
Dallas,
Yeah.
so we've got a couple of Newmans in the Dallas Fort Worth area, Dave Fleming's backyard, and where the Nationals are going this year too. So fun times over in
Yeah.
Southwest Texas.
You, so it sounds like you have a whole foursome now. The
Yeah,
Newmans and you and Dave all playing pickleball together without me. That's
Yep,
cool.
exactly. I am for sure the weak link. I played with Dave a little bit yesterday, and he is so frustrated with me because, listen, I've been working so much that my play has dropped off a little bit because I haven't been able to play as regularly as I want, which is part of the goal in the transition to pickleball.
Yeah.
And my drives are still fully intact. Great. But he's like, oh my God, Michelle, we've got to work on your thirds and your resets. I'm like, I am one speed McMahon. Okay. I'm working on it. Anyways,
Yeah.
thanks, Dave. But he hung me out to dry in Dallas for the last 2 years. I asked for good rec players. I need at least 4 or 5.
Mhm.
There's nowhere in between. I struggled with that in Dallas. Like in my age group, I'm
Yeah.
above average, but I'm not good enough to be pro. I need somewhere in the middle, and I haven't been able to find that play. And playing with Riley's so fun because I'm like, take the middle. You
Yeah.
just go ahead, do your thing. And we crushed our opponents because he's Riley and he's playing like a madman right now. But it's frustrating because I want my game to get to the next level. So, anyways, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Who captured your eye this weekend? You're watching more pickleball than probably anybody else, and you have a front row seat to it. You're even hearing the players, how they're talking to each other, how they're reacting. And we're coming up on the final event of this season in Major League Pickleball.
Mm-hmm.
Who is making a push? Who, in your eyes, is somebody that could be a huge benefit for their team currently?
Well, I think the obvious answer to that, Annalie Waters, 16 Triple Crowns. So if I'm a betting woman, I'm putting all my money on that girl. She is so impressive to me because there are moments where you could see her, like it would be easy for a normal teenager to fault or to crumble or to mentally just lose her grip on the situation at hand. And I was like, okay, maybe in singles, Catherine will get her this weekend. Like Leia almost got her last weekend. And then Annalie finds the next level, finds the next. She is so impressed with me. So I've got my eyes on the fives to make a
Mhm.
push. Riley and Lindsay Newman, we talked about them last weekend. Didn't see as big of a footing from them this weekend, but I still think that the Hard Eights could make a push with the way Riley's playing right now and the way Lindsay's playing right now. And I also want to give some challenger love from the weekend. Hurricane Tyra Black.
Mhm.
She is making some serious headway in her pickleball game. Has a strong pro tennis background. She played with Leia in women's doubles this weekend and gave her opponents a run for her money. I can't remember exactly which match it was that I was calling. They blend together all at once. It was Annalie Waters and Catherine Parento. Duh. She looked good. She looked really good. A little bit of progression in her game. Obviously, some more finesse at the kitchen line would be the next step for her. But she's coming. Andrea Coop, really impressive to me this weekend. Not in the Challenger, but back up to Premier with the BLQK Bears, Richie's team, out with an injury, came back like she's missed no time at all. And she's a pro that really jumps out to me for many reasons because she's one of the few left that has a full-time job and
Yeah.
balances the pro pickleball career. So she looked really good. And then Tyson McGuffin, the Hustlers, they're right in it with the standings. They're lingering behind just 2 teams. He looked as good as ever. And last year, thinking maybe he was done, he had a couple of injuries. This guy is in full barking fashion, back to true Tyson McGuffin form. Got a gold in singles.
That's
chugged 10 beers sideline. It was
Mhm.
awesome.
Strong.
And it was very strong, very, very strong. And that was, yeah.
That was my takeaway, honestly. It was,
Mhm.
I mean, you have these guys like you have Colin Schick and you have Connor Garnett who put up, some impressive performances. And you're like, okay, these are up and comers. These guys, they've been around for a second here. We've seen them, but we're seeing them more.
Mhm.
They have a place in pickleball. But I think my biggest takeaway for the weekend was like some of these guys, like Tyson McGuffin, playing
Yeah.
the best he's ever played. Like
Yeah.
that has to be good news and consistently good. Like it's not just like, oh, we saw him this event. Like he's been building
Yep.
throughout the month or couple months here and putting in the work. And that has to be very good news for the Hustlers. Like you said, Riley's playing the best he's played. So I think my biggest takeaways are that some of these guys, like you see people now in the sport come and go. Like we've
Mhm.
been in it long enough, Michelle, that there's been people who have been at the top a year ago that
Mhm.
we don't really see anymore. And
Mhm.
McGuffin's one of those guys that, there were probably times where you were like, okay, where
He's
is he going to
probably,
be?
yeah.
And he's still at the top, and he's actually came roaring back over the last couple months. So I have to think Hustlers are feeling very, very good right now.
Yeah, and he's so good for the sport too. So good for the sport. Anna Bright was playing singles this weekend too on that team, but two players that are electric, passionate, and Tyson, I give him a lot of credit. He's probably, well, I was going to say media polish, but like some of his interviews, he goes rogue, which is, I think, entertaining. But he always has a humble stance in terms of giving his opponents credit. Connor Garnett put up such a good fight in the gold medal match, as you mentioned, and tough first game loss. He had game point on his
Yeah.
side. He had a huge lead on McGuffin. This guy comes back down 5 or 6 points and then ends up winning the game, McGuffin, and he still gives credit back to Connor Garnett. And he's not threatened by the new guys in the game. He's like welcoming them to come to his place in Idaho. Like, I'll train you, I'll help you. Like, I love that. I have so much respect for athletes that are that way and they're not like, oh no, it's all has to be mine. Because I just think that all comes back in good fortitude towards people that are like that. And I just have a ton of respect for him. I think he's good for the game. I've always loved the Hustlers. You know, this is my front running team
Yeah.
because of the energy dynamic. And yeah, so Hustlers are on my list. The fives, Hayden Patrickson looks really good too. Harwood had a lot of foresight, I think, when drafting him. I still think size is not his advantage, but his hands are insane. So yeah, and I'd be curious to see if there's a team that can beat the Pioneers, because with the way Ben Johns plays and Megan and Etta, I feel like that is just kind of a runaway for the season championship, but I hope to be proven wrong because I think it's fun to get different teams in the mix. And then, of course, you have the Mashers, who have a good looking team that should do well, especially with women's doubles. Oh, and I also want to tell you a new nuance coming into MLP with the MLP San Clemente with the coin toss. They are now going back and forth to each team. You can start with any event, it's not just women's doubles to start.
Oh,
Your team can choose. Brooks just told us this on the broadcast call this past week. So whoever wins the
yeah.
coin toss gets to choose which event they want to lead with, and then they go back and forth with. So if you choose men's over women's, so you can start if you think that's the stronger matchup to get
Mhm.
you on the board first. You can start there. Then you can decide the order from there. So then they just go back and forth to each team. So I thought that was pretty
Interesting.
cool nuance. Like, that's interesting to me because we always started with women's doubles, and I think there was a lot of owner input there as well of why do we always have to start with women's doubles? And then I think that also changes things, the way people maybe look at the draft, like, and how much weight they put in if I don't know how much that changes the numbers and the analytics, but it could change the way that people look at things. I mean, I think AL and Ben Johns are still your number one and number two picks, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting nuance. Oh, and they're gonna have um high tech cameras on every line, so these freaking line calls will be so much more clear. That is such an area of the game that, in my opinion, needed. And I give MLP so much credit, having done a lot of these broadcasts for across the board in pickleball. To have that is a huge game changer, because half the time in the booth we're like, looks in, maybe out, I don't know, and the cameras aren't as high tech to be able to capture exactly where the ball is landing. So I think taking that margin of error out of it and taking the human judgment out of it is going to be huge too. And then especially as we look to things towards like betting and stuff, that takes that out of the picture. So sorry to drop that on you, Tyson. I just totally
No,
forgot and remembered in my little brain what we're going up against here in the broadcast booth this weekend. So
I
it's gonna
love
be
it.
fun.
I love that little extra layer of strategy now in the coin toss and being able to choose what matchup you want to play first.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely interesting. And then the other news before we get to our guest is that Major League Pickleball has announced a bunch of new partners. First and foremost, Toyota, the 2023 Toyota Prius has become the first exclusive and official auto partner of MLP. So all these owners are going to be rolling up in Priuses. I kind of think it's like the perfect like fit, like Prius, pickleball. Yeah. That's makes sense to me.
Let's put some bumper stickers on these Priuses.
They now come with. Can you get like that Major League Pickleball Edition Prius that's like got like a spot for your pickleball stuff in the trunk or something?
That's hilarious. I'm dead. I hope we get free Priuses from this.
Oh my gosh! Right? Uh, I'll send them my address here, and then we
Okay.
have
Send us a car, thanks.
OS First. Is that
Ooh.
how you say that? The sock company, the official
Mhm.
sock and compression sleeve of Major League Pickleball.
Yep.
And Sunday Swagger, the official polo shirt of Major League Pickleball.
Love that one.
And Imperial Hats
Mm-hmm.
is the official licensed headwear of Major League Pickleball. So they are rounding out their sponsors in every facet of the game and life.
Mm-hmm.
And so with this latest round, they joined the current sponsors of we have the Pro XR, the paddle, we have
Mm-hmm.
Oro Organic
Mm-hmm.
Nutrition, and we have Knockaround sunglasses. So
Cool.
yeah, lots of new sponsors coming in, and that I think is a good sign for the game. Means that the trajectory is still rocket ship to the moon.
Yeah, to the moon we go. And I'm going to just plan to decorate myself with the headgear, the compression sleeve for my overactive right arm that can't slow a ball down, and my knockaround sunglasses, drinking or organic in my new bright orange Prius branded by Major League Pickleball, and with my Pro XR paddle in hand. And I'm going to be the star of the show every pickleball place I show up to. So can't wait.
I
Sounds like a
can't wait
great deal.
either. I'm excited to see you.
Can't wait. Yay. Okay, Tyson, let's get to our guest, shall we?
We shall.
He is a legend. He needs no introduction, but we are going to give it to him anyways. He's the former world number 4 on the ATP Tour. He's won 10 ATP titles. He made it to the quarterfinals of the Australian Open and the US Open. He played 2 seasons of college tennis at Harvard. You hear that, Tyson? Very, very smart man.
I heard that.
New York Times best-selling author. He's a humanitarian, a husband, and a father. And he's one of the original owners with Major League Pickleball, the Milwaukee Mashers. And now we welcome in James Blake. James, thank you so much for joining us. So happy to have you with us. You were one of the OG owners. Got in super early, a good investment, my friend. But that Harvard education went to good use here. How did you get involved with MLP? What was the appeal to you as one of the early adopters of the sport?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's definitely a saying. I play a little golf nowadays. It's better to be lucky than good. I was definitely lucky to know the people that I know to get involved. Amir Delic, one of my good friends from playing on tour, who's also very good friends with Steve Kuhn, just called right at the inception. He said, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this league. We'd love to have a tennis player involved." And I just talked to him about it. And pickleball at that point, honestly, I hadn't played pickleball except I had seen it in my mom's senior center. The first time I actually was introduced to it, and she's like, "This is great." My mom now 87 years old. She loves playing pickleball, and she played tennis her whole life, and pickleball is way easier. So I was like, this sport is incredible for my mom. She gets to meet new people, she gets to play, she gets to use her tennis skills, and she doesn't have to move as much. And then, in talking to Amir and realizing how many young people were getting into it, now I started getting into it, and I was like, "This is incredible. This is fantastic." And why not get involved? Because I think this is going to just keep getting bigger and bigger and better and better. And so, and it's not just for senior centers, although it's perfect for those. It's great for everyone. So once I saw that, and I happened to be, then the other lucky thing is I happened to be staying at Mark Lasry's house at the time. My family goes there almost every summer, stays with him for about a week.
Aw.
My kids love it. They've got basketball court, tennis court, ocean, pool, everything all around there. Not surprisingly, it's unbelievably beautiful, and my kids love it. So I was there, and he happened to be like right next to me in the yard. And I said, "Hey, Mark, what do you think? You want to invest? You want to buy a pickleball team?" And luckily enough, he was like, "Sure, anything, do something with you." And we've got a great relationship. So we started together, and obviously he's got a pretty good tradition of sports ownership with the Bucks and winning a title there. So it's good to have someone else that's kind of got a seemingly an always a permanent golden horseshoe around him. So it's worked out well, and obviously the league has done great.
what were those early conversations like? Like I'm just like from where it was then a
Mhm.
couple years ago to where it is now, it's like exponential upon exponential growth. Was that like the vision back then even, or was it kind of like an unknown?
It was definitely a little bit of an unknown. There have been steps along the way, like you said, to make it as great as it is today. Coming from where it started, where we started was very bootstraps, just getting things going, and not sure how to do it, not sure of the rules when we're starting, what how we're going to make it work, and that was because Steve Kuhn, I think, is a visionary. He's a dreamer. He's someone that wants to see something. He sees many years in advance, and has to then there's ways you have to take steps to get there. And I think one of the biggest things for our league was hiring my favorite tournament director from the ATP is Ann Worcester, and when she got involved, she's someone that's so good about making the steps. And I had to say that because she's so angry at me for getting her involved, because her initial plan was to get involved for about 10 hours a week just as a consultant.
Yeah.
And knowing her, anyone that knows her knows that 10 hours a week is impossible for her. She can't stop working, and she's made the league so much better. And she's really made a difference and used a lot of the tennis experience. But all those steps along the way have made it so that it's going to continue to grow. And we're signing new sponsors. The teams, we're expanding with more teams. We're becoming much more and more professional. Every event we have is just getting better and better. And I love that about this league that just started. And the conversations initially were kind of those dreamer conversations of like what this could be. We've seen, as tennis players, we've seen world team tennis, we've seen it succeed, we've seen it kind of falter a little at times, and we've seen what it can be. And now we can take some of that experience from tennis and say, what can we do right to make this better? And it's actually a huge advantage to start from where we started, when pro pickleball is kind of in its infancy. It's not, I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Hmm.
not brand new, but it's pretty new. So you can still make changes without it really messing with huge traditions. I think that's some of the roadblocks of a lot of big leagues, is they don't want to switch something that's traditional. They're a little too scared to rock the boat. And we're in a position now where we can, because it's so new that we don't have 100-year history of the U.S. Open. We don't have a Wimbledon or a Masters that absolutely can't be touched in the calendar. And so it gives us the opportunity to do things hopefully the right way and set up the foundation, the bedrock of the sport right now.
And what are some of those barriers currently? I mean, essentially MLP is a startup company, right? But the ground that it has made up in just a small amount of time with Steve Kuhn, with how how much your investment has skyrocketed. What are some of the barriers now that you hope to overcome that you think will bring Major League Pickleball to the next level as an owner? Like, what are some things you'd like to start seeing?
Yeah, well, I think we had talked about that. We were gonna probably talk about betting is one thing that's huge. It changes sports. It changes the way people watch sports. I think there's people that are tuned in to the end of a football game when it's 21-0 because the spread was 14 and a half. And if someone gets a garbage touchdown at the end, is it going to change the way they feel? Because otherwise that game would have been turned off at halftime maybe. So I think betting makes a big difference. People have an interest, and I think it's easily seen in if you and your friends are out watching something that you don't really have as much interest in, and you put $5 on it, and now you've got a rooting interest. You pick that side, you pick that side, and now you're going to be excited about it. And that's all I think that it can show, that the entertainment value is there when you've got betting. And so I think we need to make sure that there's such professionalism when it comes to betting, because that's when it has to be legitimized. You can't have, I
Hmm.
think something that's very difficult is to be betting on a sport when people are calling their own lines. In tennis, obviously, once you get to the pro level, you're not calling anything. You've got umpires, you've got lines people. Now you have electronic line calling systems, and I know that's way too expensive probably for pickleball right now. Hopefully in the future we get to that point where we have it very uniform. Every event you go to, every MLP event, we've got, whether it be electronic line calling at least on the stadium court, or you've got lines people, or you've got um, trained umpires that are going to make those calls, so it's not in the hands of the players. I think that makes a big difference. And then I just want to see the crowds continue to grow, because what I've seen, when I went to the Mesa event was absolutely electric. And I wasn't able to go to the Daytona one. I was busy working at the Miami Open, but I heard it just got better and better. I'm excited about San Clemente and seeing these crowds grow and people realizing that the live event of pro pickleball is one of a kind. And to me, I equate that similarly to hockey. Like I didn't watch a ton of hockey growing up. It was one sport just wasn't that interested in. And then I went to a few games. I have friends in college that were hockey players, and I went to a few games. And man, it is similarly. It's electric live. Seeing the speed, seeing the hits, seeing the speed of the puck when they're shooting it, and the athleticism there. It's incredible to see it up close. And I think people are realizing that when they first go to these events. So I want to embrace that, and I want people to realize how great the live product is.
Yeah, it is true. I was in Mesa as well. I took some people who knew of pickleball but weren't like that familiar with the sport, and they loved it. Like they were just like, okay, I see what's going on. I see like how fun this is. And I think that's part of it. Like on TV, you get some of that, but
Yeah.
going live and feeling the electricity of the crowd and of the players, like it's right now, it's so accessible to, go see your pickleball hero and even bump shoulders with them. Like
Yeah.
in the bathroom, even like it's
Yeah.
like crazy. Like you can't do that with many other sports.
Yeah, that is pretty special. The access you get. I mean, maybe chug a beer if it's Tyson McGuffin winning. You never know.
Yeah,
But
it's true.
it is pretty cool, and it seemed like the crowd picked up on that, and they felt like they were a part of the event, which is so special. I mean, you go to a baseball game and there's 60,000 people there, and you don't feel like any individual fan is going to make a difference, and the hitter isn't going to hear a thing, but it gets a little quiet, and then it gets crazy loud, and they can hear a lot of what's going on in the crowd, and they feed off it. You can tell that the players feed off of it because, again, the sport's relatively new, so they don't have these kind of experiences every single week, and especially with MLP being so different with a team environment, you're connected with other people. And I grew up playing an individual sport, and you feel very isolated, and it feels different and special. I mean, some of my most memorable matches were Davis Cup matches when you feel like you're a part of a team. You've got someone else counting on you, and you're counting on them. And so for these players, I think it's really special. And then they feed off the crowd. The crowd feeds off the fact that they're feeling something different, and it makes it so it's great. And that was what Davis Cup crowds were for me. They were so different because they were so partisan. They're cheering for you. You're going crazy, and they're supporting your team.
Yeah.
They've got party buses of college kids coming to
Saw
these
that.
events now.
Saw that.
So, and Tyson McGuffin rallied, I think it was 10 people from the crowd this weekend to chug a beer with him. So he upped the ante of not only him chugging a beer on live TV, he also rallied the crowd behind him. So
Sure,
the
there's plenty
MLP's
of
got.
frat guys. Yeah, plenty of frat guys that don't mind chugging a beer with him.
Free beer?
That's a good play. Yeah, a free beer. Yeah.
I have a feeling some recruitment's about to be happening here in Southern California.
Yeah, definitely.
Party bus
buses.
wars.
Yeah,
We'll
you
have
gotta
some.
load these kids up with some beers and send them over to the very proper Lifetime facilities. By the way, beautiful
Yeah.
setting. I don't know if it's for college kids, but it
I
will be
haven't been
great.
there, but it might be a little different when it comes to MLP being there. It might not be as static. It might be a little more dynamic.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? Let's talk about that for a second. Like, you come from tennis, a storied tennis career. What, like, honestly, but like, what is so different about pickleball here? Because a lot of people, like, when they hear I'm in pickleball and I'm doing this and that, they envision tennis, but it's
Yeah.
not.
It's not, and I struggle so much with people making it like it's one against the other. It's you can
Right.
play both. You can enjoy both for different things, and people as if it's hurting tennis, but I love basketball too. I love golf. I love a lot of sports, and now I love pickleball because I just got into it, and it's a ton of fun, and it's different. I've had days where I've gone. I don't play a lot of tennis anymore, but I've had days where I play tennis in the morning and pickleball in the afternoon, or vice versa, and there's no reason to think that's bad. And yeah, your skill can translate quickly. I mean, perfectly honest, I picked up pickleball, I'm sure, way quicker than most people that have zero tennis background. So that gives me an advantage, but it's also that it's just a fun sport and it can be social. And pickleball is very different than tennis in the fact that I can play with a pretty varied level of players. I can go out and play with pros, and I can go out and play with 3 5s. Because that if I'm playing with 3 5s, it's going to be a lot more social. It's going to be fun. We're going to be
Yeah.
maybe having a drink after. We're going to be talking. We're going to be chatting. We're not. And then you're playing with pros, and I might be drilling. I might be training. Trying to help them get better. And I can go from level to level. In tennis, there would it's not fun for them. It's not fun for me if I'm hitting with a 3 5 tennis player. They're not going to be able to keep the ball in. They're not going to be able to. I can't even hit the ball hard. It's very different in the fact that you can be a little more. You can play with a much bigger gap, a much bigger level of player. So I love that about it. And it's, like I said, I love golf, and golf as now a dad of two young girls. I don't have 5 hours out of my day that often to just go play golf, and I can go play pickleball for an hour and a half and get a great workout and be back home. And my wife's not too upset at me after for leaving for 5 hours. So it's a win-win. I get to get a workout in and get back quicker. So there's great things about it, and I also love the fact that it can, like I said, it can be in conjunction with tennis. My kids I said they're young. They just turned 11 and 9, and I can take them to the club and play 20 minutes of tennis, 20 minutes of pickleball, 20 minutes of golf, and then jump in the pool. And that's their attention span. They don't want to play 2 hours of tennis right now. They don't want to play 2 hours of pickleball right now. But if I can get them
Yeah.
being active, doing something else, and a bunch of different things that are at the same club, I don't understand why that's taking away. They were never going to play 2 hours of tennis. So it's not taking away from their tennis time. It's giving them as much as their attention span will allow, and now let's play something different too. And it's unique, and it's a different sport that's got paddle or racket skills, and I think they can all work together and create more fans for both, hopefully.
And for kids, I think it's good for them to have a well-rounded sports background. And for you, you mentioned the daughter angle. Tyson touched on it a couple of weeks ago with Annalie Waters as our guest. What's their perception been to watching a 16-year-old girl dominate the sports and oftentimes dominate dudes in the sport? Like that
Yeah.
to me, I would imagine as a father of daughters is one of the cooler parts of this sport is you can have young girls playing with boys or older people, just
Yeah.
to I don't know, watch a role model as close to age as maybe they are.
Absolutely. So my older daughter is very competitive. Both my girls are pretty competitive, but my older daughter is the one I took to Mesa with me, and I explained to her that's Anna Lee. She's 16. She's a superstar, and now she's a fan for life. And I mean, the same as when she watched Coco Gauff play at Wimbledon. She said, "Oh my goodness, she's only 16 at that time, and now I'm a huge fan." And she's gotten to meet her. Hopefully in San Clemente, she'll get to meet Anna Lee, but also Georgia Johnson, being young and being such a
Yeah.
great player. She's actually my coach for my staff and owner team. So
That's
I'll
awesome.
make sure to bring my daughter up, and hopefully she can meet Georgia and get to hang with her a little bit. And she'll be I'm sure a new fan of hers. But it's great. It's great for women to see that they can be close in age and still see how successful they can be. And I always preach to my girls about hard work, and they got there from a lot of hard work and dedication. And you see that, they put in time. And I've seen how much effort Anna Lee puts into this. And obviously with her mom playing as much as she does, that she's made real sacrifice in her life to be this great. And so I love the fact that teaches my girls the same thing, that you put in the time, you put in the effort, and you can be successful. So it's really special. And that's another thing that I love about MLP, same as I always loved about team tennis and Hopman Cup, is there's equality. The men count just as much as the women. Each point, there's a men's point, a women's point, a mixed point, and then the Dream Breaker. It's the men and women are playing exactly the same. So and the prize money, same, same for men and women. So I think it's a great lesson for my girls. I teach them about the fact that many years ago this was not possible. The women on the WTA were getting paid way less than the men, and now through lots and lots of pushes, thanks to Venus Williams, especially Billie Jean King, one of the originals, to make it so there's equality. And it's a big thing. The tournament I run, Miami Open, was one of the first to offer equal prize money. I'm so proud of that too. So Yeah, having to being a girl
Let's
dad,
go.
it's fun on a lot of fronts, and I try to teach them about equality.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's super exciting to watch, and it's like, I mean, the league started that way.
Yeah,
So it's not like, oh, we've made a radical change now or anything. Like you said, like you got to set a precedent
yeah.
early on in in the professional realm of pickleball. Let's go to your team a little bit here.
All right.
You are part owner of the Milwaukee Mashers,
Mm-hmm.
and we are famously, Major League Pickleball is the first American league that's going to start working on a promotion relegation system.
Yeah,
We're looking at this team, and on paper, should be a team that is winning.
yeah. And it hasn't been, which has
And
been
it hasn't been.
yeah, which has been frustrating. We haven't put up the same results that we really thought. I mean, I remember doing talking to some people early on, and they're thinking, look, the Mashers look like they might be the team to beat, along with Seattle with Ben John's team, and those might be the two clashing for the titles. And we really thought we had it, especially with Callie Joe and Lucy. When we got them, we were so excited because we got Callie with the 11th pick, and then with Lucy being available right away. Callie was excited about, okay, we can get Lucy. She obviously plays there together. And that's one thing we thought was going to be a huge advantage because so many teams are piecemeal. They put together and they don't play together all the time, so they don't get to practice. This team plays together every week. They practice together, they play together, they've got great chemistry. So, okay, now we've got a dominant women's team. Now let's put together two men, and we got Andre, who's rock solid, and DJ, who's got huge upside. His potential is incredible. He's got so much skill. If he's riding off momentum, he could be one of the most dangerous players. So we thought we had an unbelievable team, and we lost in the quarters of the first one in Mesa. Uh, didn't do so well in Daytona Beach. So I mean, it's kind of surprising, especially actually Callie Joe and Lucy haven't had a lot of success. I think they've only won one or two matches throughout the first two events. We're hoping so we end up making a trade because we didn't know what to do because we really thought we were going to end up having a lot more success. So we traded my friend DJ Young, who I actually practiced with here in San Diego a few times. So it hurt me to do it, but we're trying to figure out what we can do to shake the team up a little bit, and brought in Matt Wright, who's obviously an incredible player as well, and hopefully pretty good team chemistry with Lucy. So we figured that'll help the morale on the team as well, and make it so that it's we're going to get the results we're looking for, and no time like the present. So San Clemente, here we come, and hopefully the Masters will be holding the trophy.
Well, let's step into that a little bit with promotion and relegation. And
Mm-hmm.
this season is split into two seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the final going into San Clemente of the first season of 2023, where you're in the Premier League.
Yeah.
You're going to then draft for the Challenger League for the second half of the year for the last three events. And based on where you are standing in the points overall out of all 24 teams determines whether or not you'll be in Premier League or not.
Yeah.
How much does that weigh on you currently? Like, as an owner of a team, are you stressing about it? Is your group stressing about it? Is it too early? Because right now you're on the cusp, but you're on the back end of the cusp. I see Milwaukee Mashers in 17th out of 24. To be up into the top 12, you'd need, a few more points.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're stressing about because, like I said, we thought at the beginning, hey, we did a great. We're definitely patting ourselves on the back after the draft. We thought we did a great job. With myself and Alec Blasry and Mikey Gendel have really been the team that have made a lot of those decisions. So we were definitely thinking we had a really strong team, and now we made this trade to hopefully adapt and have a good run in San Clemente. But we definitely need to make up points. I think we have the ability. I think we have the team. I still don't see a reason why we can't win San Clemente. And I know every team wants to say that, but I truly believe it. And then it's a matter of doing our homework and getting a good draft in the challengers and see if we can make up points there. But I really think San Clemente has got to be our focus right now. And we've been stressed and thinking about the relegation, and it is such a cool system. It's not familiar with a lot of American fans. Hopefully they get used to it and appreciate it because I think it would be fun in other sports as well, but it's mostly like Premier League and soccer is what's used it the most, where the top teams go up, the bottom teams go down, and it's always in flux. And you're always playing for something. So at the end of the season, just like with the NBA, there's always talk of who's tanking to get. This year is Victor Wembanyama. Who's tanking to get him? You don't have that because you can't tank because you're going down. Then you don't want to. You want to play hard every game of every season. So I think it adds that competitive element. Which, I mean, it's not that any of these players at this stage of the sport would ever be tanking, because these guys, it's so important. Every event is really important. Everything's pretty new. They wanna have success. They want to get the prize money, and it's not that. It's just that the whole format, I think, will in the long run be extremely exciting for fans.
When this was first introduced to you as a concept that MLP was running with, what was your initial take to it? Did you have impact on the decision? Break us back down through that process when it first came to be, and why it makes sense.
Yeah, I thought it was innovative because I thought it was a way to set ourselves apart. As I said, coming from tennis, I know what World Team Tennis has done right and what they've done wrong at times, and so we're able to use that. So this sets it apart from the normal tour. We don't want it looking like a normal tour event. We don't want it to be just the same. And like I said, the feeling that we get when you're a part of a team and when the fans are involved, we want to keep that. And this can make for fans that are excited about a match when you're when you're maybe eighth or ninth in the league, and this is something that's that important towards the end of the season. That's great. That's a way to keep fans involved. As I said, betting keeps them involved, but also the true fans that care about the wins and the losses. You want to stay in that Premier League. You don't want to drop down to challengers,
Mhm.
and then when you drop down to challengers, how hard are they going to fight? How well are the GMs going to draft and make it so that they can get back into that Premier League? So I thought it was innovative. And so when it came up as a topic, I thought, what, this is a real way to set ourselves apart from any other league, any other sport in our country, because it will be the only one here in the States. So I'm excited about it.
Whose idea was it?
That's a good question. It was on one of the owners' calls. I may have been Steve, but I don't want to say for sure whose idea it was, who started it. Because the thing is that no matter what, in about 5 years, when it's super successful, there'll be 20 people that take credit for it. And if it's not successful, there will be zero people standing up and saying it. So no matter who I say now, it doesn't matter, because it'll get started in 5 or 10 years when we see if it's successful or not.
Okay. What when did those conversations happen? Obviously probably not in 2021.
No, no, not right away. It wasn't until, I think it was probably right around the time when we expanded to 24 teams. That was when
Okay.
once the deal happened with Vibe, and we consolidated, and we made it so it was 24 teams. I think that's when we started the discussion about what are we going to do, because it doesn't make sense to have every team together. So how are we going to split it up? And that's when those conversations started.
Was there any pushback? Like, were there concerns or pushback from it? Because I mean, yeah.
I don't remember concern. I mean, I think there were concerns about if teams get a bad draft pick and then they end up, through no fault of their own, being in the challenger, and that's why I think the relegation stuff started coming up, because okay, well, now you're gonna have more chances. Then the next year you got a chance to get back up into the Premier League, and if you don't do a good job, if you're being lazy as a GM or an owner or whatever, and your team just falters, well, then you're gonna pay the price, and you're gonna go into challenger. And so there was talk about that, but I don't think there's too much dissension. I don't remember. It definitely wasn't one of the contentious owners' calls.
Okay.
Those
Now we're
have to
getting
be
somewhere.
interesting. I know. I was just gonna say, like, with all the influence on those calls, you're one of the icons of tennis, and then you have legends in the NFL space and the NBA
Yeah.
space and the masterminds and the finance brains. Like, you are on a panel with a lot of influential people in this world. What is that like? And the meeting of the minds, I imagine there's so many different opinions and clashes, and some days are great, other days it's like, where do we stand? Like, bring us
Yeah.
into those owner meetings.
Again, it's good to be lucky, because I probably don't belong among those great minds and great athletes, and so I'm happy to be there. But it's interesting because right at the start, way at the beginning, I was probably the only one with a lot of experience in a sport at a high level. And now obviously we've got quite a few. And I'm the lowest on the totem pole of those athletes, as
That's
opposed to
not
being the
true.
only one. So I feel like I kind of got the ball rolling with some of the like competition questions. And now we've got a wealth of of information from top unbelievable great athletes, Grand Slam champions, MVPs, NFL champions, NBA champions. So we've got we've got great resources to work with, and then we've got the finance people to deal with the business. So we've created an unbelievable team. And you're right, being on those calls is really special. It feels like I'm at some sort of a like a lecture or you know, some sort of meeting, you know, one of those big conferences, Davos or something, where you get to talk to all these really impressive and influential people. So you do have a lot of opinions, and sometimes they can be conflicting opinions. One person, and the good thing is we have a lot of the same. What's the word? A lot of the same goals. We all want to get the same thing, but we want to appreciate MLP. So, as much as we're all individual teams, I feel like we do all come together for what's best for MLP right now. I hope that continues. I hope 20 years from now, it's not so isolated that each team is fighting with each other. But right now, it really does feel like, and I think that's partly because it's so new, but everyone
Mhm.
is kind of coming together for the greater good of the sport and of the this brand of MLP, because you know we need that to be successful before we can say, hey, any one team turns into the New York Yankees or the Dallas Cowboys or whatever is the extremely successful brand inside of that one bigger brand. So I think we've all been great about that, and yeah, it's cool to be a part of that. And I don't know how I got so lucky. I've said that I've pinched myself about you know 100 times in my life of things that I've gotten to do that are really cool, and this is another one of those where I'm like, I don't know if I belong here, but I'm sure gonna go along for the ride and enjoy it. So I'm happy to be in these meetings.
I think you belong.
Thanks.
Yeah. Let's go to uh, San Clemente coming up this weekend.
Hmm.
You haven't seen the success that, I mean, I would say a large majority of the fan base thought you would have with the Milwaukee Mashers. You've
Yeah.
got Matt right now.
Hmm.
How involved are you currently in the build up to the event? Are you texting these guys, threatening them? What are you doing to, get these guys pumped up to hopefully bring home victory?
Yeah, definitely no threats, but I'll text them and stay involved in, yeah, okay, well, you know, this is what we're doing for housing. You guys, when are we going to get there and practice and that kind of stuff? I'll check in on the logistics. I'm definitely not someone that's going to be involved every single day, day to day. What are you guys having for breakfast? Are we got the right fuel? What are we doing? I'm just going to assume they know how to prepare the way they should, but set up if they need anything and figure out ways to maximize their potential and get them ready however they normally get ready the rest of the weeks on tour. So I stay involved. I was actually probably closest with DJ Young because I practiced with him a bunch in San Diego, so he's not on my team anymore, which is a bummer. But this team is they're still a great group of people. Like I actually met Matt when I went to Mesa, so I know him now, and we'll still be on the group text, and we'll just check in. And I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want to. I know that's been a the experience I do have with coaches and owners and GMs and stuff can be the more you do can actually start taking away. So I don't want to ever do that. I don't want to be detrimental. If I'm not helpful, I at least don't want to be harmful. So that's my goal, and I'll be there as a fan for sure. I'm gonna go. I can't make it Friday. My daughter has something that we have to be at, and then I'll be there Saturday and then Sunday and then Monday I got to play. They're having me play. So but it'll be a ton of fun. But I'm looking forward to being part of that team, and I love sitting on the bench at Mesa. That was such a cool experience. My daughter and I got to be front row, and then getting on the court and being close with them. And we qualified for the elimination out of our bracket by 1 point. So that was a really exciting time for my daughter to be there and see that. So hopefully we're not cutting it that close this time. We're qualifying a little easier and maybe even with a top seed and then going through further, and it could make Sunday a lot of fun for us.
When you're on the bench there, do you have any input for the team at any moments, like in Mesa? Were you communicating with the team at all, or were you just letting them do their thing?
Trying to be, a little bit of a cheerleader, but also just try to keep them calm. Know that this is something, as I said, that the crowd's incredible. They're insane there. It's nuts. It's a ton of fun. But in my experience of playing Davis Cup and getting too amped, you gotta remain calm. And the one thing I try to tell them, which is bigger picture, and it seems very simple, is trust your preparation. That was something I always heard from my coach and talked to him about. Is you're at a moment that you maybe feels unique or feels different or feels special because of this event, but you've done what you're about to do 1,000 times, hundreds of thousands of times, millions of times in practice. So trust that you've done that and go out there and do it again. Don't make it that it has to be something special. Don't try a tweener when you've never tried a tweener at 11-10 in a game. Do the things that you've done to get there. And so I try to give little basics and hopefully it helps, but these are all professionals. They know what they're doing. So I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm not, and again, not being harmful, just trying to tell them those positive things about, being trusting what you can do, and you guys have the ability. So go out there and do it.
Okay. And do you have the ability to bring your team victory in the owners event? That's what you were referring to.
But there is a little difference. Is I don't train the way they train for this. So I used to think that. I think that about like golf. If I ever get upset, I'm like, I don't play golf enough to get upset about this. I'm not good. I'm getting better at pickleball, but I'm still not these guys' level. And they threw a little pressure at me, making me the top pick, I think. So I got to try to represent the top pick, be like a Ben Johns amongst us, normal common folk tennis pickleball players. So I'm going to do my best. I know Delic will be coming for me. Brooks Wiley has already been talking trash about he's coming for me. He wants to get a bag on me, I think. So I'll have to be ready.
He talks trash to me, and I've never even played it. I've never even been in a position to play Brooks, and he'll be like, I'm going to crush you at pickleball. But okay, probably. I don't know. But I've started training again, too. So
okay.
I love it.
So I'll get out there at some point.
Nice.
Yeah. Michelle, anything?
Yeah, I'd like to know, like, heading into San Clemente, obviously you're a team in a situation that's like, we've got to start getting points, or, and also heading into the next draft. So if you don't win a championship, is there an amount of points that you're eyeing that it's like, we need to at least get this many event points in order to put ourselves in the best position for the next season? Like, what's your stance on that, or between you and Mark, or is there a number? Have you discussed that at all with the players? Like, what's that discussion look like?
Yeah, so that's something myself and Alex and Mikey will talk about. But I don't want to put that out there with the players, because that was something I always said during my tennis career, is that I feel like the reporters, every time I would go into a press conference, want to ask that same thing. Like, well, what's your goal for this? Do you think, is semis a good event? Is semis a good week? Is quarters a good time? Is finals? Is getting ranked in the top 10? Is that a success? Well, I don't know. I don't want to do that. I want to do my best and see where we end up. And I want our team to do our best. And you can run into bad luck. You can run into you can have good luck, and you maybe don't deserve certain things. But I don't like putting those kind of things on them. I'll do it behind closed doors, with Alex and Mikey on what we want. But that's because we can't affect what's going on the court. So I don't want to put that out there, because I always felt like it would be so unfair if I said, hey, I want to get to 20 in the world, which would be that'd be incredible. But now I'm at 10. So do I just chill? I don't need to do anymore.
Right.
I'm already a success. Or I don't want to say, hey, I want to get to number 1 in the world. And I worked my tail off. I did everything I could, but I came up against Roger and Rafa. So, I'm not, I just didn't have that they have. I wasn't as talented. I wasn't, I couldn't do what they could do for the extended period of time. So I don't want to feel like a failure because I didn't get there. So I don't want to put that on our team either. Say, hey, you guys have to get to the semis, or this is a failure. I want them to do their best. I want them to get all they can out of it, to compete hard, to not give away any kind of cheap free points, and do everything they can to be prepared as well as they can be. And then behind closed doors, me and Alex and Mikey, I'll talk about a few things over a beer.
That's awesome.
I'll crunch some numbers here for you quick then.
All right.
You are in 17th, but to crack the top 12, which is top 50% of the league, you only need 14 points, but then you go to the points differentials and all of that. So let's give you 15 points. So you're only 2 points behind being in the top, which means on average 7 to 8 points an event should be enough to get you to the top 50%. But then you'll have to, then you'll have to, in the Challenger League, also maintain that. So it's one of those situations, to people who aren't familiar with the promotion relegation, like, you guys are competitive. You still have a very, very good chance of being in Premier League in 2024. So you're not like way down where you have to win the Challenger League next season to even have a chance. Like, you're there. You just have to maintain that.
Yeah,
And
but but in getting up there, you don't want to get just barely there. You want to have a little buffer.
No,
I definitely
you want to crush.
That's someone once told me about golf. I don't know why I keep going back to golf, but if you want to shoot under par, like there's the saying of, like, if you get to the end and you're 1 under or whatever, like, well, the solution is get further under par. Don't think about it right at the end. Think about it beforehand, where you gave yourself a buffer and you're 3 or 4 under. Now you're going into 18 and now you feel safe. So we want to get there. We want to get there 3 or 4 under. So we want to get to that challenger situation where we're already comfortably inside that top 12.
Yeah, 100%.
Last one from me too. Then with that in mind, the challenger draft then for your team looks like, regardless of how you finish here, there's still more pressure in that situation, right? So how, without giving away trade secrets, how are you approaching a lesser known entity when you head into the level below premier players, of, like, you've got a lot of names emerging in the space and the PPA tour, you've got a lot of lesser known entities, I guess. So how do you bridge that gap of knowledge and put yourself in the best position to succeed in the challenger level?
Yeah, that's where we hopefully have an advantage of doing our homework, especially Mikey Gendel, who's very, very well versed in all things pickleball. So we'll have some meetings and talk about strategies, and that's where I think you can see a big difference in doing your homework and putting in that time and energy to know who's coming on. We may have some new people. Hint, hint, Jack Sock, get in there. I'm trying to put pressure on him to get in the draft, but even if he does, he'll be in the Premier League. But maybe that bumps someone else down to challengers. And we do a lot of research and see who we think is playing better, who would mesh well, what kind of teams have gelled, and who's played well together. So we're gonna actually really do that. And I'm guessing by now there's a lot of teams that are putting in that kind of energy and effort as well. I'm so excited about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, seeing how the analytics and data, and when you got a bigger data set, how it changes and how really intense. I mean, you look at NFL and NBA boardrooms, and they call them those war rooms for draft picks, and how involved. I want MLP to get to like that. I want there to be so much data on these players, and so we're doing our best right now to have all the analytics, to have the data, and figure out who makes the most sense. And I think Challenger, since they're lesser known, is where you can really have and hopefully exploit that gap in information.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
You talk about that data, and I think that's something that also, when betting comes into the sport, it has to be there. Like, no sports book is coming in and saying, let's put pickleball on here. I don't even think there's enough data on pickleball for a sports book to feel comfortable. Sports book needs the edge. And if they're not comfortable with giving themselves the edge in almost all scenarios, then they're not going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think for them, they want to have they definitely need a lot of data points. And so for them to set a comfortable line, they need someone that is well versed in it. And then they need that information out there so that it can't be manipulated. It can't be taken advantage of. So I think that's important. I think also when it comes to betting, if you've got events that have pretty low prize money, there is the danger that you don't want to set limits in the sports book of millions of dollars. You can't have someone betting millions of dollars on an event that will only change their outcome by $500. You just can't
Right.
have that discrepancy. So they need to be careful with that. So I'm guessing when they do start really having betting lines, there'll be limits, so that it can't get out of control. And I think that's better for it anyway. It makes it so that it's fun. It makes it so that it's not these sharks coming in that are trying to really change the lines and shift everything that's going on in Las Vegas. So I think that'll be better for the sport anyway. And then as it ramps up, the sport gets bigger, the events get bigger, and then eventually the bets get bigger, which is good for everyone.
Awesome.
I also think all the leagues uniformly need to switch to rally scoring. And that is one thing that Steve Kuhn is like so big on. I'd be curious to get your perspective on that too. But it's, in my opinion, like from a TV standpoint, so much better.
I would love to see it as well. I know there are some players, and this is what we talked about with like the tradition. This is a tradition in this sport, and the sport is relatively new. So let's break a tradition that doesn't make a lot of sense early. Let's do it now because rally
Yes.
scoring makes more sense. It makes the time of the game much more closely. There's a less of a standard deviation when you've got rally scoring, and you still have within the margin of error, the same results are supposed to happen. So you're getting the
Right.
same result. You've got a more uniform time period, which is great for selling sponsorships, for putting it on TV. So it makes sense to have it. I know there are some of the top players that don't want to have it, and I think it's just because they've gotten so used to the scoring system that they've grown up with. But it makes sense to switch now, because if we go 30 years from now and now really people have learned this and this is what they've gotten used to and this is the way they've played every event, okay, well, now we don't want to switch. We can't do this is just so radical and crazy. But if we switch it now, I think everyone gets used to it, trickling all the way down to the amateur players, the 5-0s, the 4-5s, the 3, every player will have to get used to then rally scoring, and it'll make it, I think it'll just make it better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
with
the
you.
tradition versus innovation that you talked about earlier, and
Yeah, and we're at a spot
MLP
where I
being
think we
in
can do it.
position.
Yeah, we can.
Right.
We're in the position where we can err on the side of innovation and have and set it up as now it becomes a tradition.
I think too, if you were to present the data that Steve has data on it,
Yeah.
to the top players of like, listen, it's not changing your outcome. It's not,
Right.
and in fact, it could prevent you from things like cramping and things to your body. In Texas last weekend, every single person was overheating. Like it can
Yeah.
prevent it can save your body, like your literally your vessel that's making you money. I just
Yeah.
can't see why anyone would look at the data and say no. I still think we should do traditional, especially the minds that be at the top. But to your point, I think people don't like change. I just
Yeah.
think it would, across the board, for betting, for TV, for the players' health. To me, that's like a no-brainer. But
It
anyways,
definitely makes more sense. We ran into this in tennis when doubles switched its scoring. They made it so that there wasn't a third set. There was it becomes a third set match tiebreak, and all the top players were up in arms. Don't want this. Don't want this. And then we went through the
yes,
first year of having it and collected all the data and said the higher seed actually wins at a tiny percentage higher rate now this way than they did in the normal having a full third set. And you had more doubles matches on center courts because you could keep the time frame. The reason they went to that was because it all started with one doubles match that took forever. It went nearly 3 hours, and it pushed back the Rafa Nadal Roger Federer semifinal match in Beijing, that everyone wanted to watch. Everyone in the world wanted to watch 1 versus 2 playing in that one, and it messed that up. So now, okay, we need to come up with a solution, and they did, and it ended up working out better. And that's like you said, you crunch those numbers, you get the data, you show it to them, and then you go through that process. You play a year, 2 years of it, and you show them the data that it's still the top players are still the top players, and it hasn't changed
right.
that. Now we've just got a more streamlined system.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just makes the sport better across the board. Um, But James, I think that's all we have for you. Thank you so much for your time, for your insight. Is there anything else that we left on the table that you want to address, either on your team or ownership group or anything like that?
No, I'm excited about San Clemente. Go Mashers. Hopefully fans will come out, buy some merch, have some fun, and see, like I said, what the live experience is pretty unique. So come out and experience it.
Yay. Well, can't wait to see you out there for the broadcast. Tyson, we're going to have to get you out on somebody's private jet to get out here to
Ooh,
San
private jet?
Clemente.
You had me at
It's not
private jet.
mine. I don't have those kind of connects, but I bet James probably does.
James, I'll be betting on the Mashers this weekend. Get things going at the sports books. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck in San Clemente and with the second half of 2023. And yeah, that's it. Thanks again.
Thank you.
So, Michelle, the venue that you were at for the PPA is
Yes.
in San Clemente, is also going to be the venue this coming weekend for Major League Pickleball San Clemente. How is Major League Pickleball going to fit in over there?
Oh, it's going to be amazing. This venue's first class. It's like a mix between like almost feels a little bougie in the way that it's so
I like bougie.
classy. It's like bougie, but like fun. It's set into the mountains on the side. First of all, it's a couple miles from the beach. You can see the ocean from the top of the facilities. You drive down and you feel like you're going to a country club, which Lifetime just recently branded as Lifetime Athletic Country Club. So it feels that way to me. The courtside seating, it's like set into this beautiful grass ground, like steps. They have VIP couches, cabanas. Like it's a very like VIP feel for this kind of event. I think it's going to be amazing, and it's very intimate feeling. So I'll be curious to see. I hope they can pack the house and get as many people in there as possible. It is every event does one better. So I think San Clemente, I keep saying it wrong. Sorry. San Clemente is going to be the best that we've seen so far. And it just continues to get better from here. So gorgeous facilities. Hopefully the weather holds out. It's been a little cold here, better than the Texas heat, but low 60s.
Yeah.
Not a ton of sun. I think that's changing next week, but yeah, beautiful venue. I think it's going to be great.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we should all be there in person. And if you want to and haven't gotten your tickets yet, you can go to majorleaguepickleball.net to get tickets to San Clemente or any of the future events when they come up. If you have missed any of the broadcasts, you can click the watch button at the top. You can find all the information on the teams and the players and the owners. All of it's there on majorleaguepickleball.net. And you can also follow Major League Pickleball on all major social media platforms for the latest breaking news, highlights, and everything in between. Michelle, good luck this weekend. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Tyson.
I'm super,
I know you're going to be
jealous.
tuning in.
I will be tuning in for sure. You know, that's my
every
weekend.
second, every hour, and not on mute. Okay.
No, I don't do mute.
This raspy voice can only,
Yeah, it's not going to listen to itself. So I have to be out there listening to it. Michelle, thank you so much. Good luck this weekend, and we will see you next week here on Inside Major League Pickleball.
Yay. Bye, guys. Thanks for coming. See you next week.